Welcome to
Welcome
Armbrae
to the Armbrae
Academy's
Academy
podcast.
Welcome to our podcast.
This is Suzanne Morrison, Armbrae Academy Podcast. Let's begin.
You know, we laughed, Jonathan and I laughed, and I had like a tear in my eye, and I cry a lot, but that's a whole other issue. And he was like, "Why are you crying?" I was like, that just felt like a warm hug. Like, it just felt like kids were allowed to be themselves, kids were allowed to be vulnerable and approach teachers, and you could just tell that it was like a family.
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Morrison, Executive Director of Admissions and Advancement at Armbrae Academy, and welcome to Armbrae Academy. Get to know us 5 questions in 5 minutes, where we introduce you to the people, programs, and experiences that make Armbrae Academy so special. Today's guest is Maya Owens, a mom, wife, and senior interior designer at Still James. Maya has 2 wonderful girls here at Armbrae. She's a true lover of our school, a dedicated volunteer, and her family is a big part of our community. We're thrilled to have her here today to give prospective parents some insight into what makes Armbrae so special. As Armbrae relaunches our podcast, we thought it would be a great way to speak to some of our lower school parents, especially with our upcoming open house on August 12th at 6 p.m. Hopefully, our parent ambassadors can offer some great perspectives. Welcome, Maya.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
So
coming.
excited to be here.
Great. To start us off, Maya, give us a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Jonathan, your husband, and some tidbits about your girls, your wonderful girls.
Oh, thank you. I feel like most parents here, we're just living that busy lifestyle. So we're both full-time working parents. We have 2 little girls that go here. Yes, Mila's just finished grade 2, and Emmy just finished grade 1, and we're just thrilled to be a part of this family.
Excellent. Let's talk about choosing schools. How did you guys, I know, obviously in admissions, I meet a lot of families that come in. I knew you guys before you came here.
Yeah.
But what made you choose independent school first, and what made you choose Armbrae?
It was a long thought process. You know, when you have kids and they're so young, this isn't even something that crossed my mind, like where we're living and what school district we're in. We live in a wonderful neighborhood just off Larry UTEC, and it was just speaking to the parents around us and some of the things that they were going through in public school systems that made us think private. My husband grew up going to a private school in Rothsay, New Brunswick, and I grew up going to public school. So private school never really crossed my mind, especially for the younger age. You know, our kids are vibrant, and you know, everyone thinks that their kids are smart, but I was like, you know, they'll be fine going to public school. And then, you know, we were just thinking, like, if we can invest in anything, we do want to invest in our children's education. So we did the rounds. We went through all of the schools and did all of the interviews. And I feel like Halifax has great private schools. There wasn't anything about any of the private schools that we were like, oh, we would never send our kids there. They all seem wonderful. I think what drew us here is when we did the tour and we walked through, I just felt like I just saw kids hugging teachers, and you know, even you, like this might make me cry. I actually cried on that day. You were like, and here's our grade 6s all learning to play guitar. And I'm very creative, and I felt like in my early youth that kind of creativeness was like, oh, you know, yes, you can draw at home, you can play an instrument at home, but like focus on your studies and, you know, the scholastics. And I was like, how wonderful is it that they're like allowing every kid, none of them will probably become musicians, but how cool is it that they're allowing them to learn to play guitar or, you know, express themselves like that. That's something, you know, we laughed, Jonathan and I laughed, and I had like a tear in my eye, and I cry a lot, but that's a whole other issue. And he was like, why are you crying? I was like, that just felt like a warm hug. Like, it just felt like kids were allowed to be themselves, kids were allowed to be vulnerable and approach teachers, and you could just tell that it was like a family.
Yeah. What are some of the experiences that Mila and Emmy have enjoyed? Like they're still young, but what are some of the highlights for them so far at Armbrae?
Honestly, I feel like just the involvement in some of the fundraisers and like the community outreach stuff. You know, they'll come home and they'll say like, we just filled the bus with perishable food items that are being donated. Like, how cool is it to teach your kids from a young age that there is a world outside the school and outside the family that they need to take care of?
Yes.
Both of my kids enjoy that very much, and they still talk about it. Even just them being able to understand that, like, the days that they dress down and they pay their toonie for IWK, and I think they've really enjoyed the community and, you know, our community being brought into this little community, into the school. They're both very proud of that.
It is a neat experience. I think when my son, I didn't work at Armbrae when my first son came here, and I really thought that was a big part of his introduction into giving back. I think because in public school, there's so many things that they're doing. They're managing a lot of different things. And so when Hogan came here, the philanthropic side was really a big piece, the community service side, like already encouraging them to do that community service
100%.
was really important. So community, we're talking about community and we're talking about, you know, giving back. And that is a big part of what Armbrae does. Can you give us some ideas of what this community has meant to you guys? Like, do you feel that it is a big hug?
Oh, 100%. Even just from day one, like, I remember my first day dropping Mila off, and you know, you guys had the music playing on the stairs and the principal is there, and then the next week they're calling my child by their name, and I'm like, I went to school all of these years. I don't know if any of my teachers remember my name, let alone to be like, oh, how did you play last night at your basketball game? Or, you know, like, I've heard teachers say to Emmy, did you finish that picture for me that you said you were going to give me? I'm like, they're so involved in your child's life, and you can just tell that, you know, all the teachers like truly care and are invested, and they're not just there to do their job. Like, they're really caring about your kids. And the other thing that surprised me the most is you're building these relationships not just with teachers but with other family members, and those family members aren't cyclical. Like, it's not like next year you're in a whole different class and meeting a whole set of different parents, you know, because we work. Like, I have parents be like, oh, if you want, I'll pick Mila up for a play date after school so you don't have to rush to get her. Or, you know, we know each other's coffee orders because we're doing basketball together every Saturday morning. Like, it has become a little bubble and a little sense of community, and it's so nice. We're building new friendships and new relationships. It's been great.
Yeah, it's really, really sweet. Okay, so we were just talking before you got here or we were talking before we started the podcast about school and high school, and what are those memories that we have. And you went to St. John High in New Brunswick, and it sounded pretty nice. But is there a teacher that you had growing up that you absolutely loved, and why did that teacher have an impact on you?
Yes, I do have one teacher that I remember, and I think about her often. She was actually my middle school teacher. I moved to Canada in 1996, and I feel like scholastics and like education has always been very important to my parents. It's like, you need to do really, really well in order to get somewhere in life. And I did always have this creative side that, like, I just wanted it to like bust out. One of the teachers that I remember was my art teacher in grade 7 and grade 8. Her name was Miss Debbie Diddles.
Really?
She was literally like Miss Honey from Matilda. Like, that was the teacher. I think she saw this potential in me, and she, you know, in art class, everyone's drawing, everyone's doing stuff, and she really took her time to show me techniques. And like, I'll show my kids how to draw an eye with all the detail, and I'm like, that's really neat. So I always think of her often to be able to see like potential in a kid, something that they love to do. And it might not, you know, it's not math, it's not English, it's not something, but it's something that brings them joy.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think when people look back, teachers don't realize, or maybe they do, what an impact just those little things can have. And I think that was one of the things that drew me to independent school, because I had one great teacher in a lot of teachers, but this one super special teacher. And so when Hogan came here, my oldest son, one of the things that I discovered was he had so many great teachers. And that's really what was the, rewarding for me to bring my kids to independent school, was because there was so many engaged faculty. And so that is really important. So it kind of brings us full circle. We're having an open house coming up on August 12th. What advice would you give prospective families who are looking for an independent school?
I feel like people who are looking for independent schools, I always think like not all of our kids are going to be doctors or engineers. Some might have learning disabilities and struggle in life. I just feel like this school is all about raising good human beings first, and then everything else is following. We have my oldest, Mila. She's very much a type A and a good student and a go-getter. And then my younger one's just the free spirit. Like, who knows what will happen, but it's the teachers that are dedicating their time to them. Like, I just see the teachers' investment in helping Emmy figure out her reading and writing, which she's a little bit behind on. But overall, I'm like, they're just raising good little humans, which is like the most important thing in the world.
I think that's a good piece of advice. I think, what we really want is to give our kids the skills so that they can make a better world and, kind of be kind, work hard. That
100%.
Motto is really, that's all we can ask, really.
That's definitely all we can ask for.
Yeah. Maya, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences. Your perspective is incredibly valuable, and we're so grateful you took the time to do so today. For families considering Armbrae Academy, we hope today's conversation has given you a glimpse into our welcoming community and our exceptional environment. Be sure to visit us at our open house on August 12th. Or book a campus tour at visit armbrae.ns.ca. Thanks for listening to Armbrae Academy. Get to know us, 5 questions in 5 minutes. We'll see you next time for another episode. At Armbrae Academy, every student has a story. Thanks for getting to know Maya and her families. We'll see you next time.
Armbrae.ns.ca